Okay, so I ran the exact same product brief two completely different ways. One through a real UGC creator I hired, one through an AI actor. Same script, same product, same audience. And honestly, most people fighting about this online have never run both. So I did. Here's everything that came back, including the parts that didn't work. Two contenders, a real person with a phone and an AI actor built off a reference sheet, both making the same ad for the same product. The brief didn't change between them. Same hook, same product callouts, same length, same buyer. That was the whole point of the exercise. Here's what I locked down: product, script, length, aspect ratio, and who I was writing for. If any of those drift, you're not comparing anything. And I'm showing the bad ones too. The clips where the AI falls apart, and the parts where the human was clearly worth every penny. Yeah, both happened. So there's 4 rounds: realism, turnaround, consistency across a batch, and cost per winner. Then at the end, I'll walk you through the actual workflow. I'll spoil the ending right now. Neither one wins. They solve different problems, and working out which problem you actually have is the thing that saves you money. Right. Round 1, the thing everybody cares about first. Does the AI one look fake? First, let's define it, because people use it loosely. Reading as fake isn't about resolution. It's the exact moment a viewer stops trusting the person talking. And here's what surprised me most. It's almost never the face. Faces got solved. The tells are everywhere else. Everyone stares at the face. The real problems sit under the waterline. Hands, teeth, where the eyes are pointing, the way cloth moves when someone turns. These 4 broke my clips more than anything else, and they're all fixable, which is the genuinely useful part of this. And there's audio tells too, which nobody talks about. Lips drifting a fraction late, no room sound at all, and no breathing, which is the one that gets me every time, because real people breathe mid-sentence. Hands. Every single time. If the actor gestures near the product, count the fingers first. I've thrown away genuinely good clips over a 6th finger. I logged every failed clip across the batch. Hands were nearly half of it. Teeth second, and that one's weirdly impossible to unsee once somebody points it out. Side by side, that's the difference. It isn't the model getting better between these two, it's the shot getting simpler. Couple of myths worth killing here: higher resolution doesn't help you, and a more expensive model mostly doesn't either, which nobody wants to hear. So the rule I landed on is stupidly simple. The more that's happening in frame, the more chances the model gets to break something. So do this, not that. Hold the product still, keep the hands low, one light source, and talk straight down the lens. Boring. And it works. Once I applied that, about 68% of clips passed what I call the 3-second test. Would you keep scrolling? That's the only bar that actually matters. The humans still beat it though. Nearly everything she shot passed. That gap is real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't there. One of the media buyers I sent these to said something that stuck with me. Couldn't tell on the first watch, couldn't unsee it on the second. Voice is the sleeper problem here. It holds up beautifully on a short line, then something goes slightly odd on a long one. So I write shorter lines now, which honestly made the ads better anyway. So round 1 goes to the human, clearly by 26 points, but hold that thought because it matters less than you'd think. Round 2, turnaround, and this is where the whole thing flips hard in the other direction. Here's what hiring actually looked like: finding her, briefing her, shipping the product, waiting for the shoot, then 1 round of revisions. 9 days door to door, and that's with a creator who was responsive and genuinely easy to work with. That's a good outcome, not a bad one. Those 9 days on a calendar shaded by how much was actually happening. Look at all the pale squares. That's shipping and waiting, and there is nothing you can do to compress it. The AI side, same ad. Paste the link, pick the actor, read the storyboard, approve it, render. That's genuinely it. 4 hours. And most of that was me being fussy about the storyboard, not the machine being slow. The actual rendering is maybe 40 minutes. Stage by stage, this is where it goes. Almost the entire human timeline is waiting, not working. Nobody's being slow, it's just logistics. But here's the thing, speed on its own is a vanity metric. What speed actually buys you is more shots at the target, because creative testing is a funnel. Most of what you make dies before it ever spends a cent, and that's normal, that's the job. In my accounts, it's about 1 in 12. So the real question was never how good is one ad. It's how many can you afford to try. Same budget, same month. This is how many variants each path actually got me week by week. And here's where those 31 actually went. Mostly hook variations, because the hook decides whether anybody sees the rest of the ad. Only 5 were genuinely new angles. 3 versus 31, and look, that's not a fair fight. But it is the actual fight you're in when you're buying media every day. A few things that made the volume actually usable, because 30 bad ads is genuinely worse than 3 good ones, it just costs you more. More attempts moves you along the distribution. You're not trying to make one perfect ad, you're trying to reach the tail, and the tail is rare by definition. The obvious pushback is that volume is just spam. And honestly, fair. Here's why I don't think that's what's happening when it's done properly. But volume with no filter is exactly the slop everybody complains about. The filter is the whole game, and I'll show you mine in a bit. Round 2 isn't close. The AI path wins on turnaround, and more importantly, it wins on how many things you get to try. Round 3, and this is the one I actually think matters most, and almost nobody talks about it. Making one clip that looks real is a solved problem. Making 12 that look like the same person, same room, same product, that's where it all falls over. Left is what I got with no reference, right is with one, same prompt otherwise, and the difference isn't subtle at all. Across a 12-clip batch with no reference, this is how many clips had the face drift, the label go soft, or the room quietly change on me. And it isn't random. Drift gets worse the further you get from the reference, and it compounds. Clip 12 barely resembles clip 1. There's an order to what has to stay locked. Face first, because that's what people track, then the product. A viewer will forgive the lighting and the room long before they forgive a changing face. So, contact sheet. This is the thing that fixed it for me. Plain gray background, one subject, 8 or more shots, and crucially some tight crops. Here's what that looks like in the setup I use. Every actor gets one of these before a single ad exists, and it gets approved on its own. 2 rules I genuinely don't break anymore. Every generation references the sheet, and the sheet gets approved before a single clip renders. Products get the same treatment, and the tight crops are what people skip. Wide shots lose the small detail, and small detail is what makes a product recognizable. With the sheet in place, consistency holds much deeper into the batch. Not perfect at clip 12, but completely usable. So what you're aiming for is the overlap. Realistic on its own gets you 1 nice clip. Consistent on its own gets you 30 boring ones. You need the middle, and the middle is narrower than people think. So it's not realism versus fake, it's consistent versus drifting, and that is a completely different problem with a completely different fix. Where I landed on each axis. Faces hold up best, which is the opposite of what everyone assumes. Backgrounds are still the weak one. And when it does break, it breaks in a really specific way. The product label goes soft, or the logo turns into a smudge. That kills an ad instantly. Here's the whole consistency checklist in one place. Screenshot this one if it's useful. It's the thing I wish somebody had handed me a year ago. And there's a genuine trade-off. Push really hard on realism in one clip and you lose batch consistency. I'd take the consistent batch every single time. This is the pushback I get most, that they all look like the same 4 people. Honestly, that used to be completely right. It isn't anymore. So if you take one thing from this whole video, take that. Realism got commoditized this year. Consistency across a batch did not. Round 4, money. And let's do the real maths on this, not the marketing maths. The human route, itemized properly. Her rate, the product I shipped her, the shipping itself, 1 revision round, and my own time briefing her. Call it $420 for 1 finished ad, which honestly, for UGC that good, is cheap. I'm not complaining about that price at all. The AI side. Details, sheets, storyboard passes, then the actual clip renders. The renders are the only genuinely expensive line, everything else is rounding. Where that cost actually sits, 83% of it is the video renders. Everything else is basically free, which is exactly why being fussy before the render is such a good deal. Bridging between the two, here's where the money actually goes away. It's not the render getting cheap, it's everything around the render disappearing. Per finished ad, and per winner found. 3 or 4 different numbers get quoted in this argument, and only the last one actually matters. Against what I actually budgeted, this is where each one landed. The human route always overruns, because revisions always happen. That's not a criticism, it's just filming. This is the number nobody quotes. What did it cost to find one ad that actually worked? That's the only cost that pays your salary. On cost per winner, the gap is even wider than cost per ad, because you get more swings. And notice the middle one, that's the setup I actually run. And it's metered, so you can see exactly what a batch cost you. I check this after every run, mostly to stop myself getting carried away. Three things to hold on to from the money section, because this is exactly where people get talked into bad decisions by someone selling something. Honest ledger on the AI route. It's not free money. There are real costs. They're just different costs, and one of them is your own attention. So which fork are you on? If you need one hero ad for a launch, that's a completely different decision to needing 30 tests every month. Most people I talk to are somewhere around here, much closer to needing volume than they think, and still budgeting like they need one perfect film. Simplest way to decide it. Are you testing or are you launching? Testing goes one way, launching goes the other. That's the whole flowchart. Round 4 goes to AI, but honestly not by as much as the hype says once you actually count the storyboard passes and your own time. And this is the tracker, which is genuinely just a sheet. One row per variant, what changed, what it cost, and a verdict. If you can't fill in the what changed column, the test was worthless. Okay. That's the 4 rounds. Now the part you're actually here for. Let me walk you through exactly how I run this, start to finish, nothing hidden. 6 steps, that's the whole thing. And step 5 is the one everybody skips, which is exactly why their ads look like slop. It starts with a product link. That's genuinely the only input. No brief document, no prompt, no creative direction field anywhere. The link gets read, and the details get pulled out short. Benefits, objections, who it's for. Short matters because all of that feeds later prompts. This is roughly what comes out. Compact on purpose. Long product descriptions make everything downstream worse, not better, and they cost more to carry around. Then the product gets its own contact sheet, 6 to 8 shots on a plain background, and at least a couple of tight crops on the label. The crops are the bit people skip. 4 wide shots loses the small detail, and small detail is what makes a product recognizable on a phone screen. Step 3. The actor. And there's more than one way in here depending on what the ad has to do. Generate one, clone yourself, or hire a person. All 3 are valid, and I use all 3 depending on what the ad is trying to do. Generating goes like this. A video model makes a clip, you pull the middle frame, that frame becomes the contact sheet, and the audio off it becomes the base voice. Cloning is just a selfie plus a voice recording. Faster, and it's actually you, so nobody can accuse you of faking a person that doesn't exist. Either way, you end up in the same place. A previewable sheet and a base voice. Everything after this references both, so this is the moment to be picky. Step 4. The storyboard. This is where the ad actually gets written, and notice I do not write a prompt anywhere in this process. There's no prompt box in my setup, and that's deliberate. The storyboard is the prompt. If you describe the scene in words on top of the pictures, the render gets worse. So you get frames, 1 per beat, visually consistent with each other, and a spoken line attached to each one. That's the entire creative artifact. So everything that feeds one finished ad in one place. Product sheet, actor sheet, and the meter telling me what I just spent. 2 of those 3 get made once and reused forever. Here's it actually running. Settings on the left, and the frames come back one at a time. Takes a few minutes, and no video has been paid for yet. And this is the gate. Nothing renders until you approve these. It's the one step that protects your money, and it's the first thing people want to skip. What I'm actually checking on each frame is the face the same person? Is the label readable? Does the room match? What are the hands doing? I reject about 1/3 of storyboards on the first pass, usually for one of these 3. And re-rolling a frame is basically free, so there's no reason not to. Re-rolling a picture costs pennies. Re-rolling a video costs real money. So be brutal at the picture stage, it's the cheapest place to be fussy. Step 5, the clip maths. Models cap out around 15 seconds, so a 30-second ad is 2 clips, a 45 is 3. You round up? Always. The maths is boring, but you need it. Length divided by 15, rounded up, that's how many storyboards you need per video. Nothing clever. Then they render, roughly in parallel, and get stitched together at the end. Call it 40 minutes for a 30-second ad, and I'm not watching it happen. Everything inside one video shares the same references, same lighting, same background. Different videos in a batch are meant to differ. That difference is the variation you're testing. And this is what a week actually looks like running it this way. Note Thursday. Leaving it alone is a real step, and it's the one I'm by far the worst at doing. And it emails me when a batch is finished, because I'm genuinely not going to sit there watching a progress bar for 40 minutes. You end up with this. Clips, the merged file, one folder per variation. Nothing exotic, and you can hand it straight to whoever's uploading the ads. That's the whole method. Link, details, sheets, actor, storyboard, approve, render, merge, nothing hidden, and there's no secret prompt I'm keeping back. Now, when should you not do any of this and just pay a person? Because that list is real and it's shorter than it used to be, but it's not empty. There are ads I would never try to generate, and pretending otherwise is how you waste a month and end up back where you started. If any of these are true for your ad, hire someone. I'm serious about this list. I've lost weeks ignoring it and convincing myself I could get away with it. 3 big ones. Anything the person physically has to use in a fiddly way, anything where trust is the product, and anything with a face people already know. The questions I get about this, answered straight. Do you have to disclose it? Is this killing the creator economy, and can people actually tell? On disclosure, the platforms are going to label it whether you do or not, so I just label it myself. It has never once hurt performance in my tests, and it saves an argument later. The creator I hired said this to me after she watched the whole batch, and honestly, she was completely right, and it reframed the entire thing for me. If this is you, hire. Founder-led brand, high price point, small number of ads, and trust is the whole sell. Volume genuinely does nothing for you here. 4 situations, 4 answers. Find yourself on this grid, and honestly, the decision makes itself. You don't need to agonize over it. Ad types, tiered by how reliably they generate. S tier works basically every time. C tier, don't bother, you'll burn a day and hire someone anyway. Plotted against how much it costs to be wrong. Top right is where you should still be spending real money on real people, and that quadrant is not going away. It really is this binary once you're honest about what the ad has to do. Being believed or finding the angle, those are 2 different jobs. Everything side by side in one table. This is the summary I'd send someone who asked me the question in a DM and didn't want a 20-minute video. And which path actually gives you what? Notice neither column is all ticks. Anyone telling you one of these columns is full is selling you something. Honestly, the setup I ended up running uses both. A human for the hero ad and generated variations testing around it all month. They feed each other. What the human shoots tells you what's worth testing. What the tests find tells you what to shoot next month. That's the actual bridge. You're not picking a side in a culture war, you're closing a gap between what you can make and what you can afford to test. Quick glossary, because I've thrown a lot of words at you and some of them I've basically made up for my own use. Right, let's score the whole thing properly and see where it actually lands. All 4 rounds on one chart. The human shape is stronger where you'd expect. The AI shape is stronger exactly where testing lives. Different shapes, not better and worse. Against a plain benchmark, this is how the mix setup grades out. I lose on believability, and I'm fine with that, because I win on the thing that pays. If I had to put one number on whether this is worth running, that's about where I'd land. Strongly yes for testing work. Genuinely no for the one ad your launch depends on. 3 dials I actually watch every week: pass rate, drift rate, and cost efficiency. Everything else is noise I've learned to ignore. Month over month since I started running both together instead of arguing about which one to pick. These are the moves that actually happened. Roughly where my output comes from now. Not precise, but directionally that's my reality, and the human slice is not going to 0. And the trend on each one. Realism keeps improving fast, drift is improving slower, hands are barely moving, which tells you something about what's hard. So no winner, it's a split, and the split is clean. One of them is better at making an ad, the other is better at finding one. If your bottleneck is quality on one ad, hire. If your bottleneck is how many you can even try, generate. That's the whole decision, honestly. 3 takeaways. These are the ones I'd actually write down if I were watching this instead of making it. And 3 rules if you're going to try this. Break these and you'll produce exactly the slop everyone's complaining about, and you'll blame the models. The starting checklist. Do these in order, don't skip the sheet, don't skip the gate, and start with 2 variants rather than 12. If you only do one thing from this whole video, do this one: approve the pictures before you pay for the video. That's it. That's the entire trick. Structurally, that's how the whole thing hangs together. Inputs, references, the gate, output. 4 blocks, and the gate is the only one that needs you. And here's how it falls apart if you skip it. One bad reference knocks over everything after it, and at the end you'll blame the model instead of the process. Where I'm at with it right now against where I want to be, about 3/4 of a batch is usable with no rework. Backgrounds are what's holding it back, and nearly 3/4 of what I ship now is generated. 2 years ago that was 0, and I was very confident it would stay 0. What I'm testing next, if you're curious: background lock, longer clips without a seam, and hands, where I'm honestly just waiting on the models. A few lines from people who watched both versions cold without knowing which was which. That middle one is my favorite reaction of the whole test. I put both in front of 100 people and asked which they'd trust. That's the split. Closer than I expected, and closer than it would have been last year. Which is honestly the real headline here. Most viewers can't reliably tell, and the ones who can don't care nearly as much as people in our industry do. The entire test in 4 numbers. If you skip to the end, this is the video. So that's the test. Both versions, all the numbers, nothing held back and nothing cherry-picked. Everything I used, the prompt pack and the example ads, all of that's linked in the description. Free, no catch. And if you want the next teardown, subscribe.